The drama in Cleveland just reached a boiling point, and what should have been a moment of celebration has turned into a full-blown controversy that has the entire football world talking. Shedeur Sanders just made history, becoming the first Browns rookie quarterback to win his debut start since 1995, breaking a brutal 29-year curse that has haunted this franchise through decades of quarterback failures and disappointments. This should have been a moment of pure joy, a time for the organization to rally around their young quarterback and celebrate a genuinely historic achievement. But instead, we're talking about head coach Kevin Stefanski's bizarre, lukewarm, almost dismissive response to Shedeur's performance. And the reaction from people close to the Sanders family has been absolutely explosive. The disrespect was so obvious, so glaring that it's impossible to ignore. And now everyone from analysts to former players to fans are questioning whether Cleveland's coaching staff is truly committed to supporting their talented rookie quarterback, or if they're already sabotaging him before he even has a real chance to succeed. Let's break down exactly what happened, why it matters so much, and what this could mean for Shedeur's future in Cleveland. Because this isn't just about one press conference or one awkward moment. This is about organizational culture, about whether Cleveland has learned anything from decades of quarterback failures, and about whether they're prepared to handle a player with Shedeur Sanders' talent and personality. First, let's establish the context. Shedeur Sanders completed 11 of 20 passes for 209 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception in a dominant 24-10 victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. The performance was impressive enough that even Myles Garrett, the Browns' defensive superstar and one of the best players in the entire NFL, was caught on camera during the game with an expression of absolute shock and amazement after watching Shedeur make a throw. Garrett literally said there aren't many guys in the league who can make throws like that. Think about the significance of that statement. Myles Garrett has faced every elite quarterback in the NFL. He's gone against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, all the best of the best. And he's saying Shedeur made a throw that stands out even in that company. That 52-yard touchdown strike to Isaiah Bond wasn't just a good throw. It was a high degree of difficulty dime dropped over tight coverage while rolling out to his right after avoiding pressure. That's the kind of play that franchise quarterbacks make, the kind of throw that gets coaching staffs excited about a player's ceiling and potential. The 66-yard touchdown on the swing pass to Jerome Ford showed excellent timing and ball placement, getting the ball out quickly and letting his playmaker do the work. And there were other plays that could have been even bigger if not for a Jerry Jeudy fumble that cost Cleveland another explosive gain. This was objectively a successful debut by any reasonable standard. A rookie quarterback with only 1 week of practice with the first team, going on the road and winning decisively while showing flashes of elite arm talent and poise under pressure. The Browns' defense dominated, holding the Raiders to just 10 points, but Shedeur did his part by managing the game intelligently and making big plays when opportunities presented themselves. So after all that, after Myles Garrett is visibly amazed by what he just witnessed, after the team gets a convincing road victory, after Shedeur becomes the first Browns rookie quarterback to win his debut in nearly 3 decades, you would expect the head coach to be enthusiastic, supportive, and excited about what his young quarterback just accomplished, right? You would expect Kevin Stefanski to come into that post-game press conference and shower Shedeur with praise, talk about his potential, express confidence in his future, and make it clear that the organization is fully behind him. Instead, Stefanski gave the most tepid, non-committal, almost reluctant acknowledgement imaginable. When asked directly about Shedeur being the starter going forward, Stefanski said he wasn't going to get into that he was just going to enjoy the win, that there were things to clean up, and that he'd worry about the quarterback decision later. The contrast with how Stefanski handled Dillon Gabriel earlier in the season is absolutely stark and revealing. When Gabriel was struggling, when the Browns were losing games with him at quarterback, when his performance was objectively poor, Stefanski was quick to publicly declare Gabriel as the starter, to express confidence in him, to make it clear there was no controversy or competition. But now, after Shedeur just made history and showed genuine franchise quarterback potential, suddenly Stefanski wants to be cautious and non-committal. Suddenly he doesn't want to rush into decisions. Suddenly he needs more time to evaluate. The double standard is obvious and, frankly, insulting. This is exactly the kind of treatment that destroys young quarterbacks' confidence and creates dysfunction within organizations. The reaction from people analyzing this situation has been swift and harsh. Multiple analysts and former players have called out Stefanski for this obvious disrespect, pointing out that a head coach's job includes supporting and building up his players, especially young quarterbacks who need confidence and organizational backing to develop and succeed. When J.J. McCarthy had a terrible 3 quarters for another team earlier this season before finally leading a comeback, his head coach came into the locker room acting like they'd won the Super Bowl, celebrating McCarthy's resilience and growth. That's how you build up a young quarterback. That's how you create a culture where players feel supported and valued. Stefanski's response after Shedeur's historic win was the complete opposite. Cold, distant, almost resentful, like he was being forced to acknowledge something he didn't want to admit. The optics are absolutely terrible, and you can bet that Shedeur noticed, that his teammates noticed, that the entire locker room noticed. How is a team supposed to rally around a quarterback when their own head coach won't even enthusiastically support him after a historic winning debut? The speculation about why Stefanski is treating Shedeur this way ranges from the practical to the conspiratorial. Some people think Stefanski is simply committed to Dillon Gabriel as his guy and resents being forced by circumstances to give Shedeur a chance. Gabriel is Stefanski's draft pick, the quarterback he chose and invested in, and admitting that a 5th-round pick who barely got any practice reps might be better than his 3rd-round selection would be an implicit admission of failure in evaluation and development. Others think there's a personality clash, that Stefanski, who comes across as a buttoned-up, conservative, traditional NFL coach, simply doesn't know how to handle or appreciate a player like Shedeur, who carries himself with confidence and swagger. Shedeur isn't your typical quiet, deferential rookie who just says yes sir and keeps his head down. He has opinions, he has confidence, he has a famous father who will advocate for him. And maybe that makes Stefanski uncomfortable. There's also the possibility that Cleveland's front office is already planning to draft another quarterback in 2026, and Stefanski knows this, which makes him reluctant to fully commit to Shedeur because he knows the organization isn't committed long-term. If that's the case, it's even more dysfunctional and problematic because it means they're essentially wasting Shedeur's development year by not giving him the full support and resources he needs to maximize his potential. Whatever the reason, the impact is clear. Shedeur Sanders is not getting the organizational support that young quarterbacks need to succeed. He's being treated with skepticism and reluctance rather than enthusiasm and confidence. And if Cleveland thinks they can develop a franchise quarterback while treating him this way, they're delusional and they're setting themselves up for yet another quarterback failure to add to their already embarrassing list. The comparison to how other successful organizations handle their young quarterbacks is instructive. When C.J. Stroud was drafted by Houston, the entire organization rallied around him. The head coach praised him constantly. They built the offense around his strengths. They gave him weapons and protection. They created an environment where he could succeed. The result? Stroud had one of the best rookie quarterback seasons in NFL history and transformed the Texans from a laughingstock into a playoff team. When Brock Purdy got his chance in San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan didn't hedge or show reluctance. He publicly supported Purdy, built game plans that maximized his strengths, and created an environment where a 7th-round pick could thrive and eventually lead his team to a Super Bowl appearance. That's what good coaching and good organizational culture looks like. Cleveland, under Stefanski, is doing the opposite with Shedeur. They're making him practice with the scout team rather than the first-team offense, denying him the reps he needs to develop chemistry with his receivers and offensive line. They're being non-committal about his status even after he makes history. They're treating him like a reluctant backup, rather than a potential franchise savior. This is organizational malpractice, and it's exactly the kind of dysfunction that has kept Cleveland in quarterback hell for over 2 decades. The comment about Shedeur not getting first-team practice reps is particularly damning. Some analysts tried to justify this by saying it's common for backup quarterbacks not to get many reps with the starters, that veteran backups often go weeks without meaningful practice time. But that argument completely misses the point. Shedeur isn't a veteran backup who's been in the league for years and knows how to prepare without extensive practice. He's a rookie who's never taken an NFL snap before his debut. He needs every possible rep with the first team to develop timing, chemistry, and understanding of the offense at game speed. The fact that he won his debut and looked promising despite only having 1 week of first-team practice reps is actually a testament to his talent and preparation, not a justification for continuing to limit his practice opportunities. If anything, it suggests he could be even better with proper preparation and support. But instead of recognizing that and adjusting their approach, Cleveland seems determined to continue treating him as an afterthought rather than investing in his development. The offensive line situation is another concern that was raised. If Shedeur is running the scout team in practice, that means he's working with backup offensive linemen rather than the starters. How is that supposed to prepare him for game situations where he'll be behind the starting offensive line? The timing, the protection schemes, the communication, all of that is different. You're essentially asking him to prepare with one group and then play with a completely different group, which is setting him up for failure. Now, to Stefanski's credit, he did eventually announce on Monday that Shedeur would start again in Week 13 against the San Francisco 49ers. That's the right decision, obviously, given that Shedeur just won his debut and showed promise while Dillon Gabriel went 1-4 in his 5 starts before getting injured. But even that announcement came with typical Stefanski hedging, saying he's just focusing on this week and not looking beyond that, refusing to commit to Shedeur as the long-term starter or even acknowledge the possibility. Compare that to how other coaches handle similar situations. When a young quarterback wins and shows promise, successful coaches make it clear that this is their guy going forward, that they're committed to him, that the organization is fully behind him. That kind of public support creates confidence and stability. Stefanski's reluctance to do that creates the opposite, uncertainty and doubt that can undermine a young player's development and confidence. The breakdown of Shedeur's actual performance shows why the lack of enthusiastic support is so frustrating. Yes, his completion percentage of 55% isn't spectacular, but context matters enormously. He had limited practice time with the first team. He was working with receivers he barely knew. The offensive line was patchwork, and yet he still made multiple high degree of difficulty throws that showed legitimate franchise quarterback potential. The 52-yard touchdown to Isaiah Bond was the kind of throw that makes scouts and coaches salivate. Rolling out under pressure, keeping his eyes downfield, delivering an accurate deep ball over tight coverage to a receiver in stride. That's not something every quarterback can do. That's elite arm talent combined with excellent processing and decision-making under pressure. Myles Garrett's reaction said it all. A defensive player who faces the best quarterbacks in the league every week was genuinely shocked and impressed by what he saw from his own team's rookie quarterback. The swing pass to Jerome Ford that went for 66 yards and a touchdown showed excellent timing and anticipation, getting the ball out quickly to a playmaker in space. The fact that Jerry Jeudy fumbled away what should have been another big gain on a perfectly executed rollout throw isn't Shedeur's fault. If you add that play back into his stat line, he'd be looking at well over 250 yards and potentially multiple touchdowns in his debut. That's a genuinely impressive performance for a rookie in his first start, with minimal preparation. The one interception he threw wasn't great, obviously, but context matters there too. First NFL start, on the road, limited practice time, still learning the offense and his receivers. One turnover in that situation is completely understandable and forgivable. The key is that he didn't let it affect the rest of his performance. He bounced back, continued making plays, and led his team to a convincing victory. That's maturity and mental toughness that you can't teach. The fact that Shedeur became the first Browns rookie quarterback to win his debut since 1995 cannot be overstated. The Browns have cycled through 42 different starting quarterbacks since 1999. That's not a typo. 42 quarterbacks in 25 years. That's an average of nearly 2 different starting quarterbacks per season, an absolutely staggering level of instability and failure at the most important position in sports. Breaking a 29-year curse for rookie quarterback debut wins is a genuinely historic accomplishment that should be celebrated and recognized by the organization. Instead, Stefanski treated it like a routine regular season victory that didn't deserve any special acknowledgement or enthusiasm. That's disrespectful not just to Shedeur, but to Browns fans who have suffered through decades of quarterback failures and finally have reason to be hopeful about a young prospect. The upcoming game against the San Francisco 49ers is a massive test for Shedeur and will reveal a lot about his potential. The 49ers are not the Raiders. They have one of the best defensive fronts in football, complex coverages, and a coaching staff that will game plan specifically to attack a rookie quarterback making just his second career start. This is a legitimate stress test, the kind of game that separates prospects with real potential from guys who just had a good week. If Shedeur can perform well against San Francisco, showing continued improvement with another week of first-team practice reps, making smart decisions under pressure, and avoiding major mistakes, then Cleveland will have no choice but to recognize they have something special. If he struggles, which would be completely understandable given the difficulty of the opponent and his inexperience, then Cleveland needs to show patience and continue developing him, rather than immediately running back to Dillon Gabriel or looking elsewhere. The broader context here is that Cleveland is 3-8, with the playoffs essentially out of reach. This is exactly the time when you should be evaluating your young quarterbacks and figuring out who can be part of your future. Playing it safe with Dillon Gabriel, who's already shown his ceiling and limitations in going 1-4 as a starter, makes no sense. You already know what Gabriel is. He's a competent backup who can manage games but doesn't have the arm talent or playmaking ability to elevate the offense. Shedeur, on the other hand, represents potential. He has the arm talent to make every throw. He has the confidence and mental toughness to handle pressure. He has the pedigree and preparation from growing up around his father and elite football environments. You need to find out what you have in him over the remaining games of the season so you can make informed decisions about the quarterback position going into the offseason and the 2026 draft. The reports that Cleveland's front office is considering drafting another quarterback in the first round of the 2026 draft are particularly concerning in light of how they're handling Shedeur. If they're already planning to draft his replacement before he's even played a handful of games, that suggests they never truly believed in him as a prospect and only drafted him as a late-round flyer with no real investment in his development. That would be organizational malpractice of the highest order. You can't develop quarterbacks if you're constantly hedging your bets and planning to replace them before they've had a fair chance to develop. Quarterbacks need time, reps, support, and organizational commitment to reach their potential. If Cleveland isn't willing to provide those things to Shedeur, then they should trade him to a team that will, because wasting his talent in a dysfunctional environment benefits nobody. The comparison to Baker Mayfield's time in Cleveland is instructive and cautionary. Baker came in with confidence and swagger, had early success, and seemed like he might be the answer to Cleveland's quarterback problems. But the organization never fully committed to him, constantly doubted him, brought in competition, and eventually gave up on him. Baker went to Tampa Bay, won a division, and proved he could succeed in a supportive environment with good coaching and organizational stability. Cleveland is at risk of repeating that same mistake with Shedeur. They have a talented young quarterback with elite physical tools and mental toughness. But instead of fully committing to him, building around him, and creating an environment where he can succeed, they're already hedging, doubting, and looking at other options. If they continue down this path, Shedeur will eventually end up somewhere else, succeed, and Cleveland will be left wondering why they keep failing at the quarterback position when the answer is staring them in the face. It's not talent evaluation, it's organizational dysfunction and refusal to commit. So what needs to happen moving forward? First and foremost, Kevin Stefanski needs to publicly and enthusiastically support Shedeur Sanders, not with tepid, non-committal coach speak, but with genuine enthusiasm and confidence. Make it clear that Shedeur is the starting quarterback for the rest of the season barring injury, that the organization is committed to his development, and that they believe in his potential to be a franchise quarterback. Second, Shedeur needs to get all the first-team practice reps from here on out. No more scout team work. He needs to be practicing with the starting offense, developing chemistry with his receivers and running backs, working with the starting offensive line, and getting as many high-quality reps as possible to accelerate his development. Third, the offensive coaching staff needs to build game plans that maximize Shedeur's strengths. He has a big arm and can make throws downfield. Design plays that let him showcase that ability. He's mobile enough to extend plays. Build in rollouts and bootlegs that let him use his legs. He's confident throwing into tight windows. Trust him to make those throws. Don't handcuff him with overly conservative, scared play calling that limits what he can do. Fourth, the front office needs to commit to Shedeur as the quarterback of the future, at least for the next year or two, and stop the speculation about drafting another quarterback. Give him a real chance to develop with organizational support and stability before making any long-term decisions about the position. And finally, the entire organization needs to recognize that handling a player like Shedeur Sanders requires a different approach than dealing with typical NFL players. He comes from an elite football family. He has high expectations and supreme confidence. He's used to winning and excellence. You can't treat him like a regular late-round pick and expect him to just accept being relegated to the scout team or given lukewarm support. You need to embrace what makes him special, support his confidence rather than trying to humble him, and create an environment where his unique talents can flourish. If Cleveland does these things, they have a legitimate chance to finally solve their quarterback problem with Shedeur Sanders. If they don't, if they continue down the path of dysfunction, doubt, and disrespect that Kevin Stefanski's post-game comments suggested, then they'll waste another talented quarterback and continue their cycle of failure for another generation. The choice is Cleveland's to make. The talent is there. The potential is there. The opportunity is there. The question is whether the organization has the wisdom, courage, and commitment to seize it. Based on their track record, there's plenty of reason for skepticism. But Shedeur Sanders just gave them reason for hope by breaking a 29-year curse in his first start. The least they can do is show him some respect and give him a real chance to succeed. So, here's what you need to do. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about how Kevin Stefanski handled this situation. Was his response disrespectful to Shedeur? Should he have been more enthusiastic and supportive? Do you think Cleveland will actually commit to Shedeur as their franchise quarterback, or will they repeat their usual pattern of dysfunction? If you want to stay on top of every development in this absolutely wild situation, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the notification bell. This story is far from over, and you don't want to miss any of the drama as it continues to unfold. And hit that like button if you're frustrated by Cleveland's organizational dysfunction and want to see Shedeur get the support and opportunity he deserves. This young man just made history and showed legitimate franchise quarterback potential. The least his head coach could do is show some enthusiasm and support. The fact that he didn't tells you everything you need to know about why Cleveland continues to fail at the quarterback position year after year after year,